Now, of course, I won't go into right now, but one of the things that when this descent happens, see, to the ascent, the transcendent ascent into pure spirit, you could say, or awareness, the ascendant movement, I mean, you don't have to do anything, right? You have to, all you have to do is stop tinkering with yourself. Stop trying to fix yourself. Just let it all go just for a moment, right? And that allows it to happen. Well, when the descent comes, for that, we could say, spirit to kind of really get down and embodied, well, now it's not just whatever forms of confusion, fear, ignorance, the list goes on and on. As this movement comes back down, you start to re-engage with your humanity. Does that make sense? And in a lot of people, there's a tremendous resistance to do that because they're like, no. I got out of that thing. I woke up and out of that. And not to come back down and in, you got to be kidding. That was chaos, man. There's no way I'm doing that, you know? And so it's from a certain point of view, I'm not saying ultimately, but from a certain point of view, it's kind of a sacrifice. To come back down into the world of form, it's almost like you're sacrificing a certain kind of heavenly state and to come back down in so that that heavenly state can be embodied. And of course, in order to embody it, whatever is running counter to it has to be seen, acknowledged, and ultimately let go of. That makes it sound really simple. It's not necessarily that simple, but whatever runs counter to it is going to feel intense pressure to clear itself out, to let itself go. And that's its own thing. So anyway, it's the experience of two kinds of freedom. The ascent of pure awareness is the experience of freedom from. I'm free from whatever it is. I'm free from who I thought I was. I'm free from, a past of terrible experiences or good experiences. Who knows? I'm free from body, from mind. I'm free from thinking I'm this ego. I'm free from whoopee. That's the definition of that freedom. It's freedom from. The other one is very different. It's, am I free enough to embody form? And first, it really helps if you can see that form and emptiness are the same thing, right? That's where they come up with words like how do we explain that? What word do we got to invent for that? And I can just see somebody scratching their head going, how about spirit? That's something that's nothing, isn't it? We'll give that a spirit, a something that's nothing, sort of like the essence of existence, you might say, something like that. Okay, we'll call it spirit. Cool. That's where these kind of words come from in a lot of ways. Is somebody scratching their head, having an experience, and going, how in the hell do I tell anybody about this? The old words and descriptions don't really fit, right? So that's where we get those from. But the nice thing is it reawakens the body mind. And in Zen we say that one of the traditional descriptions of enlightenment is a harmonization of body, mind, and spirit. That they all kind of link up because they're all ultimately the same thing. That's the sort of realization, right? That you can be something and somebody at the same time, and that something and somebodyness is actually nothing and nobody. And that nothing and nobody is actually something and somebody. So all of the, and this is the point, of course, where it becomes almost impossible to describe it. So I'm going to end the talk really quick. And that is because at the root of reality, it is coming back to the root where from an intellectual point of view, and maybe even from certain experiential point of view, all of it's a paradox because all of the opposites seem to come together, right? And then my formless awareness is the clouds and the mountains and the sky. And the clouds and mountains and the sky is awareness. Now, how does that make sense? But it's so conceptually it becomes this incredible paradox. It's easy to say, well, it's all one. But what does that mean? Well, it means that you perceive that something and nothing are exactly the same. And so it becomes really impossible to give an accurate description. You can't really give a totally accurate description because even oneness isn't really true. It's not one, it's not two. It's not either one of those. If you could kind of slam them both together somehow. Okay, so that's my quick description. So for the ascent, you just give attention to that light of being, that light of awareness, that light of consciousness that's always there in every single experience you have. The nice thing about that is you don't have to wait to have any particular experience to do it. You don't have to be unconfused. You can be totally confused. What in the hell is he talking about? I have no idea whatsoever. Yes, but you're totally aware of your confusion, right? Oh, pay attention to that. Don't be so hung up on your confusion. If you're clear, you go, I really understand that. Okay, great. Don't get hung up on understanding it, because tomorrow you'll be unclear about something and confused. But notice that your understanding is also something that appears within your awareness. Oh, so you don't have to wait to have a particular experience to do this. It's like seeing what's the same in all experience and just acknowledging it and abiding in it. That's what like Ramana meant when he said, abide in the self. It's a great saying, but of course the question is, what the heck does that mean? So that's the ascent. It's that simple. The challenge of it is to keep it that simple, right? Because you're deviating. This is where the spiritual, it's not really a process, but I don't know whatever word to use. The spiritual process and the psychological process starts to deviate. Not that they're not connected, because they are, and they do interrelate throughout the whole of your life. But at a really fundamental sense, the psychological thing is the experience of process, right? There's always a process going on, and you're trying to get clear on a process. You're trying to get not suffer so much, and whatever the psychological process is, where you're trying to mitigate as much suffering as you can. But this other thing is where you're leaving process alone for a moment. Because as long as you're engaged in trying to fix yourself, you can't pay attention to this other thing. It doesn't mean there's not a time to try to fix yourself. I would love it like if 80% of the people came to me, spent a year or two with a really, really skilled therapist. It would really make their and my life a lot easier. It would be great. And these two do keep intermingling. I don't mean to imply that they're totally separate, but another one of those paradoxes. They're not separate, but they are distinct. And that's useful to know. When you're doing your process work, do your process work. Fine. When you do that, do that. When you're trying to wake up, don't. You're engaged in something else, right? You're leaving process behind. You're leaving fixing yourself up behind. Maybe you need to be fixed up, but awakening isn't. They're not the same thing. So when you're engaged in the spiritual dimension of it, you're engaged in the fundamental reality of your being. you're not really engaged in trying to improve your relative human experience. Get what I mean? And I'll just say it again. I know I've said it all, because when I say this, oftentimes people will ask me or write me or something thinking that I'm denying the usefulness of the psychological process. Like I said, I'm not. I would love it if almost everybody came to me with a good couple of years of therapy under their belt. It would really help them. And even in the midst of their spiritual life, you're going to have to deal with your psychology, even if you transcend it, because, well, probably not all the confusion is going to go away just in one blasting moment of insight. It's very different for different people. Some people, like 20% just drops away. You didn't solve it, you didn't resolve it, it just disappears. For somebody else, maybe 90% just disappears, and it's just not there anymore. You know, that's the power of some of these fundamental shifts, but generally there's going to be some, you know, we can never divorce ourselves from our psychology, right? Not effectively, nor should we try. But we should understand that there is a kind of, they're these distinct tracks. They're related but not the same. And if you're really clear on that, it will really help you. Because then when you need to do your psychological work and your self-improvement stuff, then you can be totally committed and you do that at that time. And then when you're doing this other thing, right, when you're doing the waking up, you're not confusing yourself thinking, I've got to be just the right kind of person, otherwise I can't wake up, because that's not true. You can be a total effing mess and wake up. I've seen it, right? It's really advisable not to be a mess if you can, right? It's a really good thing not to be, but it really shows you that you do not earn your way towards being what you are. You don't. It doesn't work that way. Even if you feel like you're a complete mess and you do kind of wake up out of that identification, it doesn't mean that, like I said, probably not every bit of that messiness is going to disappear. So at some point you'll re-engage, but you'll re-engage from a different position. You'll re-engage from, like, I'm treating myself as though I'm somebody I care about. You'll re-engage not from a pursuit of trying to be whole, because you already know that you are. But you'll engage from a sense of, like I said, a sense of love. If there's confusion, if there's still any turmoil, well, of course you'd pay attention to it. Of course your heart would go out to it. Even if it's not essentially making you more in any way than you already are, it's still a completely worthwhile endeavor to do, just out of compassion and love. It's a different standpoint, though, right? Then you're not doing it from a sense of lack. You're doing it from a sense of love and sacrifice. God so loved the world that he gave it his only begotten Son. There's the description of it. If you don't just take that as a story that happened 2,000 years ago, but you will come, if you haven't already, I'm sure some of you have, you will come upon that point when you're in this very beautiful, transcendent, almost kind of quasi-heavenly state. And the thing that's going to get you to re-engage and come to a deeper understanding and a deeper experience of being, it's going to be kind of like a sacrifice, because I'm letting go of that, of holding it, not letting go of it like leaving it behind, but just not clinging. And it's a sacrifice. And why do you do it? You do it out of love, because nothing gets left behind. Nothing gets left behind. That's the love of it. Nothing gets left behind. That's the beauty of it. That's why you re-engage, because nothing gets left behind. Nothing and no one gets left. You don't just abandon your suffering self forever. Nothing gets left behind. And I think that's a very intuitive, human, heartful instinct, right? I know I've gone terribly late, so we'll take a little break. Now go out there and forget all of this. Right? Don't hold on to it.